Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to Colours of Nature Art. And if you're new here, it's great to see you. And today we have a 2 for the price of 1. Yes, I'm doing 2 prompts today. So that's what the first one I'm covering is going to be journaling card and beloved visitor. Now the actual journal is starting to look like a proper journal now. I know I haven't sewn the signatures in, but look at that. It's and it's starting to get quite chunky. Don't want it to get too chunky like my last 2 were very big. But it's starting to feel like a proper journal. So first one is beloved visitor. I'll just adjust the camera and just bring you a bit closer. There, that's better. I think a bit more in focus. So today we're starting off in the woodlands. And here's Katie Country Mouse's little cottage, which is actually under the base of a very, very ancient old oak tree, as you can see. And she's got a warm, cosy fire burning in the grate. And I made her a little rug to go in front of the fire with a bit of material and just frayed the edges. And then up here she's got a skylight so that she can look out onto the woodlands. And here's Katie, and she is expecting a visitor. And she's got her best dress on, and she's got out the best china. So we'll put Katie sitting by the fire waiting for her visitor. And she's already got one friend who's turned up, but that's not who they're waiting for, although he is a very beloved visitor, and that is Lavender Mole. And Lavender made a cameo appearance in last year's journal, but he's wearing a lilac-coloured knitted waistcoat that Katie made him, and a knitted tea cosy in the same colour, so he matches. I was quite pleased with the way that teapot cover turned out, because these are my digital designs. And I think digital designs are still an art form, because there's still quite a lot of processes that you go through to produce a digital art. And some of it is my own artwork that is then digitalized, etc., etc. So I think we can legitimately use digital art forms in mixed media projects like journaling. And so I finally got my sewing machine put up for me. So I have stitched around the edges. It's a bit wonky, but that's all right. Wonky adds character. And on the back, little journaling card, and he put, "Guess who came for tea yesterday?" So we'll put Lavender Mole back in there. And did you hear that? I think there's someone at the door. Her whole house shook. I wonder who it is. Well, if we look up here, who's coming to tea? It's Effie. Hello, Effie. We haven't seen you since last Dephemerember. No, well, it's very nice to see you. Yes, hello. Well, if you come down to the front door, because there's biscuits, and I think that Katie has baked a cake. Well, Katie and Effie are very good friends. I'll show you. This was last year's Dephemerember Journal, if you haven't seen it. And somewhere in here we go. Effie turned up in the summer. And he went and visited Katie, and they went for a nice walk in the countryside. And she made him a friendship bracelet, Effie and Katie. And then he turned up again in the winter. And they built a snowman out in the snow. So they are very good friends. And my icicles are still tinkling from last year. I think 2 dropped off, but for me that was quite good. And then when I picked it up just now, this dropped off it. You're probably beginning to realise that by now things seem to fall out of my journals. Yeah, well, just don't mention it to anybody. Right, so we'll put lavender back in there. So are you coming down, Effie? I think Katie has baked a cake. Oh, I think that's done it. There we are. So we will leave Effie and Lavender and Katie to have a nice cup of tea and a piece of cake, and we'll leave them to it and move on to the next prompt. So, where is the next one? I've actually, with these signatures, it's actually quite a good idea. I've sort of named the signatures because then I can work out which bit of the journal I'm working on. So that's called B5, and then we have got Snow Fox, Building Plans, and Daisies. So we're now working, I think it is in Snow Fox signature. So this prompt was altered pocket and textile fragments. So what have we got in here? Well, I decided to use this particular pocket, and I hope I'm not repeating myself, but if people haven't seen one of the other videos, they won't know about this bit. But this was from the 1901 census, and my grandmother is mentioned on here, and she was a scholar, and her sister Amy was also then a scholar. But when my great auntie Amy grew up, she was a dressmaker, and she used to make some of my summer dresses for me. And when I embossed that on an envelope and used it as this page, I suddenly realised that just reminded me of that. And then the other day I found something that said 59 yards, and I thought, oh, I'll just go and stick that in my journal, as you do. So this is what I've turned into my altered pocket. That is just stuck in there, and I'll reveal what's under there in a minute. But for the altered pocket bit, it's difficult to describe it, but this was the pocket. That wasn't there, but that was the pocket, and that was all covered over, so that was, and then you put things in there. And then I decided I wanted to create something different with the pocket to alter it, obviously, and so I decided to tear a hole in it. Well, yeah, that was a bit hairy because I got very near the edge there and down there, and by then, because I'd used the distress inks, everything was a bit damp, and I almost got to the edge, but I didn't, so I saved it. So I decided I still wanted a pocket, so I made another little pocket which went in there, and did a bit of stenciling through with the texture paste. And then for the textile, that is a bit of the same material that I used to make Katie's rug for her fireplace, and I've altered it slightly. I did some different colours on there so that it would match with this. And what did I use? I think I used Stormy Sky, Weathered Wood, and Bundled Sage, which is on the back of there. And then to colour it, I used Distress watercolour pencils, and that was taken up with Bundled Sage and a little bit of Rustic Wilderness. And then over here, that was a similar colour. So, what's peeping through? Let me put that out of the way. And we have got, once the page stays still, an owl. And the owl was on, this was just tissue paper. And you might remember that from one of the initial videos. And it was just white tissue and stuck to, and I stuck some mulberry paper on the back of it. And so I've used another bit of the texture fabric and frayed it along the ends, and then the bits that came off we don't waste. I made a thingamy-bob cluster of sort of cottony thingamy-bob, and I stuck a little bit of moss on so that we're sort of echoing the bit of moss on the owl's log. And I love owls, and at night I often hear an owl hooting out at night, and I think sometimes they're very close, and I think they perch in the silver birch tree outside the window. But again, I picked up, because when I designed this one, it's often a bit difficult with colours, because when you print something out, the colour can change, if you know what I mean. But I was quite pleased with how weathered wood, and I also used in that, to match the colours better, I used some iced spruce and a bit of black, along with Stormy Sky and weathered wood distressed oxides, so they were oxides. And then we've got another little pocket down in there. And when it said, because I think I read the initial prompt a bit wrong. Because I thought it said altered pocket and texture fragments, but it was textile fragments. But that was all right, because I'd already put that down. But for my texture, I thought, well, we've got a lot of texture going on as well. We've got the texture of the embossing. Then this side, you've got the debossed side, which is still very tactile. And you've got the raised bits from the texture paste. And then you've got all where I tore the hole, and then as you can see, I've curled back the edges of that. So that's a bit more texture. That's textural there as well. We've got the moss, which is texture. And then we've got obviously the material and that, and we've got a button on that side. So that sort of matches. And then, of course, we've got the crinkled effect of the tissue paper. And I think that does look like a woodland in winter. You wouldn't really think that was just crinkled tissue paper. So I was quite pleased with that page. So I think that is now the conclusion of those 2 pages. So if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to give me a thumbs up on YouTube, pressing the like button, that really would mean a lot, because so that the YouTube algorithm will start to realize my channel's here, because it's only little, and YouTube can then maybe recommend it to other people who might enjoy art journals. Now, next time, we've now got to my least, what was the prompt? Let me read from the prompt list. Here we go. There we go. So, we've done journaling card, beloved visitor, altered pocket and textile fragments. And can you believe we're almost halfway through Dephemerember? And the next one, we've got least favourite ephemera and bookbinders art. Well, warning here, I think that my least favourite ephemera is going to cause ripples in the junk journaling world. So I will go and prepare myself, and I hope to see you again soon when all will be revealed. So thank you for watching. Bye bye.